I stood there in my best suit watching my brother Marcus say his vows to the woman of his dreams. I was his best man. I spent 2 years helping him win her heart. I gave him over $40,000 and sacrificed my plans to make this day absolutely perfect. I felt nothing but pride. What I did not know was that 6 months later, Marcus would stand before our entire family and tell them I tried to steal his wife. The worst part, everyone believed him. Before we dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop a comment below with your location. If stories about family betrayal and fighting for the truth mean something to you, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Now stay with me to hear how I lost everything to one lie and how I fought to take it all back. My name is Duncan. I am 32 years old and I work as a software engineer in Austin, Texas. To understand what happened between me and my brother, you need to know where we came from. Marcus and I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood on the outskirts of Dallas. Our dad worked at a manufacturing plant, and our mom, Patricia, stayed home to raise us. Life was simple. We had enough, but never too much. Marcus is 3 years older than me, and growing up I looked up to him like he was some kind of superhero. He was charming, good-looking, and always knew how to make people laugh. Everyone loved Marcus. Our dad passed away when I was 19, and Marcus was 22. A heart attack took him in the middle of the night. No warning. No goodbye. Just gone. That loss changed our family forever. Mom leaned on Marcus after that. He was her firstborn, her golden child. She always believed he would be the one to carry on Dad's legacy, whatever that meant. Me? I was the quiet one. I studied hard, got scholarships, and landed a good job right out of college. By the time I was 28, I had saved enough to start thinking about buying my own house. I was proud of what I built, even if Mom never seemed to notice. Marcus, on the other hand, struggled. He jumped from job to job. Real estate, sales, car dealerships, insurance. Nothing ever stuck. He made money sometimes, lost it other times. But no matter how many times he failed, Mom always defended him. She would say he just needed the right opportunity. She would say he was meant for bigger things. I never resented Marcus for being Mom's favorite. That is just how it was. And honestly, I loved my brother. Whenever he needed help, I was there. When he was short on rent, I covered it. When his car broke down, I paid for the repairs. I never kept track. I never asked for anything back. That is what family does right. 3 years ago, everything changed. Marcus called me late one night around 11:30. His voice was shaking. He told me he had met someone. Her name was Leah, and she was a nurse at a local hospital. He had seen her at a charity event the hospital was hosting, and according to him, it was love at first sight. The problem was, Leah did not feel the same way. Marcus had asked her out multiple times, and she kept turning him down. She told him he seemed like a nice guy, but not serious enough. She was looking for stability, for someone who had his life together. And Marcus, with his unstable income and inconsistent track record, did not fit that picture. That night on the phone, Marcus broke down crying. He told me Leah was the only woman he had ever truly loved. He said if he could not be with her, he did not know how he would go on. His words scared me. I had never heard my brother sound so desperate. So I made a decision that would change both our lives. I told Marcus I would help him. Whatever it took, I would help him become the man Leah was looking for. Looking back now, I wonder if things would have been different if I had just stayed out of it. But at that moment, all I could think about was my brother's happiness. He said something that night that stuck with me. He said, "You are the only person I trust, Duncan. You are the only one who has never let me down." How could I say no to that? The first thing I did was help Marcus get his finances in order. He owed money to 3 different credit card companies and was behind on his car payments. The total was around $15,000. I transferred the money to him without hesitation. I figured once he got back on his feet, he would pay me back eventually. He never did, but that is not the point. Next, I helped him create a plan to win Leah over. Not through manipulation or tricks, but through genuine self-improvement. I coached him on how to present himself better. I asked a female colleague of mine to help him update his wardrobe and teach him some basics about being more thoughtful and attentive. I even helped him write letters to Leah, real letters handwritten, expressing his feelings in a way that was honest and vulnerable. For 18 months, I dedicated a significant portion of my free time to this project. I would come home from work exhausted, but instead of resting, I would spend hours on the phone with Marcus, going over his progress, giving him advice, helping him prepare for dates, and slowly, it started to work. Leah began to see a different side of Marcus, the effort he was putting in the changes he was making. She agreed to give him a chance. They started dating officially, and Marcus was over the moon. During this time, I barely noticed how one-sided our relationship had become. Marcus never asked how I was doing. He never offered to help me with anything. Every conversation was about him and Leah. But I told myself it was okay. My brother was happy. That was enough. Then came the engagement. Marcus proposed to Leah after they had been dating for about a year, and she said yes. The whole family was thrilled. Mom cried tears of joy. She kept saying how proud she was of Marcus for finally getting his life together. She had no idea how much of that transformation was because of me. And I never told her. I did not want to take anything away from my brother's moment. But then came the wedding planning, and that is when things got complicated. Marcus and Leah wanted a proper wedding. 150 guests, nice venue, professional photographer, the whole package. The only problem was, Marcus did not have the money. His job in real estate was still inconsistent, and Leah's nursing salary could only stretch so far. So Marcus came to me again. He asked if I could help cover some of the costs. I asked how much. He said maybe around $20,000. I took a deep breath and looked at my savings account. I had been saving for years to buy a house. I had about $35,000 set aside. If I gave Marcus $20,000, my dream of home ownership would be pushed back by at least 2 or 3 more years. But this was my brother's wedding, the most important day of his life. How could I say no? In the end, I gave him $28,000. The wedding costs kept adding up, and every time there was a new expense, Marcus would call me with that same desperate tone in his voice. The venue deposit, the catering, the flowers, the photographer, the band. I ended up handling most of the logistics myself. I designed the invitations. I coordinated with the vendors. I took 2 weeks off work just to make sure everything went smoothly. On the wedding day, I stood beside Marcus as his best man. The ceremony was beautiful. Leah looked stunning in her white dress, and Marcus looked happier than I had ever seen him. When it was time for speeches, I gave a toast about brotherhood, about love, about how proud I was of the man Marcus had become. Then it was Marcus's turn to speak. He thanked his mom for always believing in him. He thanked Leah's parents for welcoming him into their family. He thanked the guests for being there. He thanked everyone except me. I sat there waiting for my name, waiting for even a small acknowledgement of everything I had done. It never came. Marcus finished his speech, everyone clapped, and the reception continued. After the ceremony, Leah pulled me aside. She squeezed my hand and said, "Duncan, I know how much you did for us, for Marcus. I will never forget it." I smiled and told her it was nothing. Before she could say more, Marcus appeared and led her away to greet other guests. That night, I drove back to my small 1-bedroom apartment, the apartment I was still renting because I had given away my house fund. I sat in the darkness for a long time trying to convince myself that I was okay, that my brother's happiness was worth it, that someday he would realize what I had sacrificed and thank me properly. 6 months passed. Life went on. Marcus and Leah settled into their new life as a married couple. I went back to work, started saving again from scratch, and tried to move forward. But then I started noticing something strange. Mom stopped calling me as often. When I would reach out, she seemed distant, cold. My Aunt Gloria, who used to invite me to every family gathering, suddenly stopped including me. Even my grandmother, Grandma Elaine, who I had always been close to, seemed different when I called her. Her voice was sad, hesitant, like she was holding something back. I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe everyone was just busy. Maybe I was being paranoid. Then came Thanksgiving. I drove to Mom's house that evening carrying a pumpkin pie I had bought from Grandma Elaine's favorite bakery. I was looking forward to seeing everyone. It had been weeks since the whole family had been together. When I walked through the front door, the room went silent. Mom was in the kitchen. Uncle Raymond was sitting on the couch. Aunt Gloria was by the window. Grandma Elaine was in her usual chair by the fireplace. And there, standing in the middle of the living room, was Marcus. They all stared at me like I was a stranger, like I had done something unforgivable. Mom came out of the kitchen, her face hard. She looked at me and said, "Why did you even come here?" I was confused. I asked what she meant. I asked what was going on. Aunt Gloria shook her head. "Marcus told us everything. We know what you did." My heart started pounding. I had no idea what they were talking about. I looked at Marcus, hoping he would explain, hoping this was some kind of misunderstanding. Marcus stared back at me with cold eyes. He said, "Do not play innocent Duncan. I have proof." Then he told them. He told our entire family that before the wedding I had tried to seduce Leah. He said I had been sending her inappropriate messages, trying to convince her to leave him and be with me instead. He said he had screenshots. He said he had been carrying this pain for months, trying to protect me, but he could not stay silent anymore. I could not breathe. The words hit me like a physical blow. I tried to speak, tried to defend myself, but no sound came out. Mom's eyes filled with tears. She said, "How could you do this to your own brother? After everything he has been through?" I finally found my voice. I told them it was not true. I told them I had never done anything like that. I begged them to listen to me. But Marcus pulled out his phone. He showed them screenshots of text messages, messages that looked like they were from me to Leah, flirtatious messages, inappropriate messages. The thing is, I had texted Leah before the wedding, but those messages were completely innocent. I had asked her about Marcus's favorite things so I could prepare a surprise birthday gift for him. I had asked her opinion on the wedding arrangements. Normal, harmless conversations. Marcus had taken those messages and edited them. He had cut out the context, rearranged the words, added things I never wrote. He had created a false narrative that painted me as a man who had tried to betray his own brother. And everyone believed him. Grandma Elaine, the woman who had taught me to ride a bike, who had baked cookies with me every Christmas, who had told me she was proud of me when I graduated college. She turned her face away. She could not even look at me. Mom told me to leave. She said she did not want to see me until I was ready to apologize to Marcus. I tried one more time. I told them to ask Leah. I told them she would confirm that nothing happened. But Marcus said Leah was too traumatized to talk about it. He said she was trying to move past it for the sake of their marriage. I walked out of that house in a daze. I got into my car, drove about 2 miles, and then I had to pull over because I could not see through my tears. I sat on the side of the road in the rain, crying harder than I had cried since Dad died. I sat there for 2 hours, asking myself the same question over and over. How could my own brother do this to me? The 3 months that followed were the darkest of my life. I became a ghost. I went to work, came home, and sat in silence. I stopped eating properly. I stopped exercising. I stopped caring about anything. My performance at work suffered so badly that my manager pulled me aside and warned me that if things did not improve, they would have to let me go. My family had completely cut me off. Mom would not answer my calls. Aunt Gloria blocked my number. Even Uncle Raymond, who had always been the reasonable one, stopped responding to my messages. The only person who had not explicitly rejected me was Grandma Elaine. But when I tried to visit, her mom was there and turned me away at the door. I thought about giving up. Not on life, but on everything else. Maybe it would be easier to just accept that my family was gone. Maybe I should move to another city, start over, and pretend I never had a brother named Marcus. But then something happened that changed everything. I was sitting alone at a coffee shop near my apartment, staring at a cup of cold coffee I had not touched for an hour. I heard someone say my name. I looked up and saw a woman I vaguely recognized. It took me a moment to place her. Her name was Sophie. She was Leah's best friend. I had met her briefly at the wedding. Sophie sat down across from me without asking. She looked at me with an expression I could not read. Then she said something that made my heart stop. "I know the truth, Duncan. Leah told me everything." I could not speak. I just stared at her. Sophie explained. Leah had confided in her a few weeks ago. Leah knew the messages Marcus showed the family were fake. Leah knew I had never done anything inappropriate. Leah felt terrible about what was happening to me, but she was scared. Marcus had convinced her that if she spoke up, it would destroy their marriage. He had made her feel like she owed him her silence. Then Sophie told me something that hit even harder. She said Marcus had always been jealous of me. For years. He resented that I had a stable career while he struggled. He resented that I was the one everyone came to when they needed help. He resented that even though Mom favored him openly deep down, he knew I was the more capable brother. The lie about Leah was not random. It was calculated. Marcus wanted to destroy my reputation with the family so that no one would ever compare him to me again. He wanted to erase any possibility that the truth about who really helped him would come out. If everyone hated me, no one would ever believe me if I told them how much I had done for him. I sat there in that coffee shop, processing everything Sophie had told me. For 3 months I had blamed myself. I had wondered if I had somehow given Marcus a reason to hate me. I had questioned every interaction, every word, every gesture. But now I understood. This was not about anything I did wrong. This was about Marcus's insecurity, his jealousy, his need to be the hero of his own story, even if it meant making me the villain. Something shifted inside me that day. The sadness was still there, but it was joined by something else. Determination, anger, a refusal to let my brother's lies define me. I decided to fight back. The first thing I did was gather evidence, real evidence. I went through my phone and my email, saving every original message I had ever exchanged with Leah. I pulled up my bank statements showing the transfers I had made to Marcus. $15,000 to pay off his debts, $28,000 for the wedding. I found emails between me and the wedding vendors proving that I was the one who had coordinated everything. I compiled all of this into a folder. Dates, amounts, screenshots, emails. Everything documented. Everything verifiable. Then I reached out to Uncle Raymond. Out of everyone in my family, he was the most rational. He was the one who asked questions instead of jumping to conclusions. When Marcus first made his accusations at Thanksgiving, I had noticed Uncle Raymond frowning like something did not sit right with him. I sent Uncle Raymond a message asking if we could meet. To my relief, he agreed. We met at a diner halfway between Austin and Dallas. I brought my folder of evidence. For 2 hours, I walked him through everything. I showed him the original messages with Leah, the innocent conversations about birthday gifts and wedding details. I showed him Marcus's edited screenshots pointing out the inconsistencies, the places where the text had clearly been manipulated. I showed him the financial records, the proof of everything I had given to Marcus. Uncle Raymond listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he looked at me and said, "I believe you, Duncan. I think I always had doubts, but I did not want to cause more conflict. That was wrong of me. I am sorry." Those words meant more to me than I can express. Uncle Raymond and I came up with a plan. Grandma Elaine's 85th birthday was coming up in 2 weeks. The whole family would be there. It was the perfect opportunity to present the truth. I spent those 2 weeks preparing. I made copies of all the documents. I practiced what I would say. I tried to stay calm even though my heart was racing every time I thought about facing my family again. The day of the birthday party arrived. It was held at Grandma Elaine's house, the same house where I had spent countless childhood afternoons playing in the backyard. Walking through that front door felt surreal. The last time I had been with my family, they had treated me like a criminal. Everyone was there. Mom, Aunt Gloria, Uncle Raymond, various cousins and relatives, and of course Marcus and Leah. Marcus saw me and his face went pale for a moment. Then he recovered, putting on a mask of righteous indignation. He walked over to Mom and whispered something in her ear. Mom glared at me. Before anyone could tell me to leave, Uncle Raymond stepped forward. He announced that there was something important the family needed to hear. He said everyone should sit down. The room went quiet. People exchanged confused glances. Marcus tried to interrupt, saying this was supposed to be Grandma's special day, and we should not ruin it with drama. But Uncle Raymond held firm. He said the truth had been buried for too long. Then it was my turn. I stood in front of my family, the folder of evidence in my hands. My voice was steady, even though inside I was trembling. I told them I had been accused of something I did not do. I told them I had evidence that would prove my innocence. I asked them to please just look at what I had brought before making any judgments. I started with the messages. I showed them the original text between me and Leah, and then I showed them the screenshots Marcus had presented at Thanksgiving. I pointed out the edits, the missing context, the manipulated conversations. Several relatives leaned in, examining the evidence closely. Then I showed them the financial records, the wire transfers, the emails, the receipts. I explained how I had spent over $43,000 helping Marcus, how I had sacrificed my savings, my plans, my future, all for his happiness. The room was completely silent, and then, unexpectedly, Leah stood up. Her voice was shaking, but her words were clear. She said she could not stay silent anymore. She confirmed everything I had said. She told the family that my messages to her had been completely innocent, that Marcus had manipulated the screenshots, and that she had been too afraid to speak up before now. She turned to Marcus, tears streaming down her face. She said she could not be married to someone who would destroy his own brother with lies. Marcus tried to defend himself. He said Leah was confused, that I had somehow turned her against him. But his voice was desperate now, and everyone could hear it. The mask was slipping. Mom stood up. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. She looked at Marcus, then at me. For a long moment, she did not speak. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "What have I done?" Grandma Elaine reached out and took my hand. Her eyes were filled with tears. She said, "I am so sorry, my boy. I am so sorry I did not believe you." One by one, my relatives apologized. Aunt Gloria, Uncle Raymond, cousins I had not spoken to in months. They had all believed a lie, and now they were seeing the truth. Marcus stood alone in the middle of the room, abandoned by everyone who had taken his side. He looked at me with something I had never seen in his eyes before. Fear, shame, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of regret. I did not say anything to him. There was nothing left to say. In the weeks that followed, the consequences of Marcus's lies caught up with him. Leah filed for divorce 1 month after the birthday party. She told Marcus she could not build a life with someone capable of such cruelty. The divorce was finalized quickly. She moved back in with her parents and eventually transferred to a hospital in another city to start fresh. Marcus lost his job shortly after. The story of what he had done spread through the small community where he worked, and his reputation was destroyed. The charm that had always carried him through life was no longer enough. Mom called me every day for weeks after the truth came out. She apologized over and over, crying about how she had failed me, how she had always favored Marcus and never appreciated everything I did. I listened. I accepted her apologies. But I told her honestly that it would take time for me to fully trust her again. Aunt Gloria sent me a long letter. Uncle Raymond invited me to dinner at his house. Grandma Elaine asked me to move in with her so she would not be alone. I did not take her up on that offer, but I started visiting her every Sunday. Those afternoons with her working in her garden and listening to her stories became some of the most healing moments of my recovery. Because I did need to heal. Even after being vindicated, even after my family accepted the truth, the wounds were still there. The betrayal by my brother, the months of isolation, the feeling of being abandoned by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. I started seeing a therapist. It helped. I learned to process my anger without letting it consume me. I learned to forgive myself for the guilt I had carried, the irrational feeling that somehow I should have prevented all of this. I threw myself back into my work and earned a promotion to project manager. I joined a running club and made new friends who knew nothing about my family drama. I started saving money again, and after 18 months, I finally bought a small house on the east side of Austin. Life got better, slowly but genuinely. About 2 years after everything happened, I received a message from Marcus. He asked if we could meet. He said he was not looking for forgiveness. He just wanted to apologize in person. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore the message to let Marcus live with the consequences of his actions without giving him the closure he was seeking. But another part of me knew that holding on to that resentment was only hurting myself. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop in Dallas. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. He looked older, worn. The confident swagger was gone. He sat across from me and started talking. He told me he had been working a regular job at a warehouse. He told me he had been going to therapy, trying to understand why he had done what he did. He told me he knew now that he had been jealous of me his whole life, and instead of dealing with it, he had let it turn into something ugly. He did not ask me to forgive him. He just said he was sorry, truly sorry, and that he would spend the rest of his life regretting what he had done. I listened. When he finished, I was quiet for a moment. Then I said, "I am not angry anymore, Marcus. But things between us can never be what they were. You broke something that cannot be fixed." He nodded. He understood. We finished our coffee and went our separate ways. We exchange brief messages on holidays now. Polite, distant. We are not enemies, but we are not brothers anymore either. Not really. And I have made peace with that. If you are watching this and you have been betrayed by someone you love, someone you trusted, I want you to know something. The truth has a way of coming out. It might take time. It might feel like forever. But lies cannot survive in the light. Do not let someone else's cruelty define who you are. Do not let their lies become your story. Fight for yourself. Protect your integrity. And when the dust settles, choose healing over hatred. Because carrying anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other person gets sick. It only hurts you. I lost my brother to his own jealousy and fear, but I gained something too. I gained the knowledge that I can survive anything. I gained the certainty that my worth is not determined by what others believe about me. And I gained the freedom that comes from finally letting go. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been falsely accused by someone in your own family? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. Let us support each other. If this story touched you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these videos. And if you have not already subscribed to this channel, so you do not miss future stories. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for listening. I hope wherever you are, whatever you are going through, you find the strength to stand in your truth. Take care of yourselves. And remember, you are stronger than you know.